This was one of the most bizarre moments. I think Kim inadvertently knocked us off in her effort to participate. So it happens, and
my bad. I'm sorry.
All right,
Yeah. We might have to just kind of hang out here for a little bit as people start to find out that we're back live.
Yeah,
we'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah, I think she wanted to, try to still participate and try to still, I think it came from a good place. You know what I mean? But
yes, I agree. But
I
sadly
see some
people trickling in. Eric and Gil already here.
Yeah.
So
I'll
let
tweet
me go
also.
to that live stream too and tell people the old one. SJ Lolo, hello. Hopefully people start trickling in. I see you, Jennifer and Russ. They're also here. Gil, hello. No, this was, I think we were talking about this, Jennifer. Jennifer's asking, is it going to happen? I think in Kim's effort to try to be a participant today, I think she might have pulled us off the air. So
yeah. It's no, it's not Albert's fault. I mean, I know everybody wants to.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
What maybe you could have said is, Kim, don't touch anything. But she was trying to participate, so I feel for her, and I
will be going to the old live stream right now to in the comments.
Kim, how are you?
Hopefully they could see that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they can. Oh, I see. With maybe in the comments. Yeah,
I'll be like, hey, we're actually live on a different thing. So,
well, this is what happens when you knock your stream off of the. This is the kind of crap that I hate. It shouldn't be that easy to knock us off, but I guess it is. All right.
Sorry, that's me pulling up the old stream.
And I got to go. So I don't know. We're in a tough spot here. All right, everyone. Thank you for rejoining. Maybe when you repost this, well, I guess it's not. I don't know. We'll not repost this part. We'll repost Florida, which is all we have to do. Thankfully, most of what we had to do in the first hour, we did.
Yeah.
So, Albert, I cannot. Sadly, I want to wait, but I can't wait. I'll wait 45 more seconds, and then it's.
I agree, because we got to get going, and we have, like you said, we mentioned it in that first little chunk that we have pre-recorded with the Michaels today, talking about the State of the Union, and Michael Snyder talked about his movie reviews. And did he preview the Oscars a little bit?
Yes,
Mark?
he did. Yeah. He did. It's actually a pretty good Culture Blaster visit, so we'll have that coming up for you. But most anticipated is Florida. I'll quickly address this. Mark, what show are you filling in for on KFI? John Cobelt. His show starts at 1 p.m. Pacific, so I've got to jump over there. Thank you, Tumbleweed. It was the weird. I can stream this on my computer, but it isn't doing it on my big TV. I don't know the reason for that. It's a really funky thing. And
we also kind of scrambled to just make something to get on air. So
yeah, exactly. So Albert, we just wanted to jump back on, exactly as Albert says. So, and by the way, as we lead up to Florida, I will tell you that I think, Albert, in the new week, I've got some new technical devices coming here. I hope it'll be good. Tony's coming up to kind of set things up, and I think these various characters from American history, Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, maybe one of the greatest Americans, Washington. There's Beethoven, not an American, but angry Beethoven, who I really love. I think they're going to be moving over here. We're going to be swapping these two. So we'll see who notices. But Was there an iron rod involved in you being dropped off the air?
Smash
No, it was
with your iron rod.
maybe Kim did it. Pretty much sure it was Kim.
Because I think we were just recapping. We were having a moment there, we're going over our Florida rundown together, and
it's pretty tough. What happens? We're not going to be. This is going to hurt us in all sorts of ways, but there's nothing we can do. At 800 down to 150, yeah, it hurts. Mark blew off 800 viewers. Glad he isn't running for office. Says if Tesla. Yeah, it's tough. All right, Albert, let's do it. We owe it, and we will break this out as a separate video. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
Well, it has happened in Florida. A woman trying to poison her boyfriend. At least that's what she's accused of. She did it the old-fashioned way, everybody. She put a bleach tablet in his teacup.
What?
Yeah. Then she said she thought it was sugar when he felt his throat burn. So she had the method of poison all ready to go. And then she had the method of excuse all ready to go.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Well, the incident happened just about 2 weeks ago. They've been living together for about 3 years. They were at home in Miami-Dade. Yvette Diaz, 49, arrested. Yeah. Made a meal for himself, did the boyfriend, and some tea. Then he stepped outside to take a work call. When he came back inside, he offered her a bite of his tortilla meal, which she accepted. After taking a bite, she said it was spicy, and he offered her his tea to drink, which she adamantly, apparently, declined. Her boyfriend then took a large gulp from his cup of the tea, and his throat started to immediately burn, according to the report. He also noticed a strong smell of, if you guess bleach, give yourself points. That smell was coming from the cup. He poured it into the sink. Then he noticed in his cup there were remnants of a concentrated bleach tablet that he usually dissolves into 5 gallons of water. There's bleach in this drink, he says. Did you put bleach in my drink?
Why are you yelling?
I thought it was sugar, she said. He was taken to Homestead Hospital for treatment. The cops say they didn't think the Diaz could have confused the two because the powdered sugar was kept in the upper kitchen cabinet, the tablets stored under the kitchen sink. She was arrested and booked into jail.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you can't. Maybe they had the sugar and the bleach together. You know?
Yeah, which, by the way, would be such a royal F-up that you can't imagine it being a legit kitchen, but maybe.
I do love it feels very classic. Like you'd see this like a Bond villain try to do that probably in a more slick way. But yeah, it feels like very old school.
A woman is facing burglary in Florida and battery charges. That's right. Burglary and battery is what they're charging her with. She broke into her ex-boyfriend's home and threw Sprite at him.
What?
Is there absolutely no bottom? I ask you. Then she picked up pickled pork juice and poured it all over his sofa.
What?
A deputy with the Lee County Sheriff's Office responded to this call to a Lehigh Acres home. A resident said someone broke into his home. When officials arrived, they said that the woman, who is Akiva Reddick, she's 22, was holding a bottle of Sprite outside of the home, which she then flung at the guy, identified as her ex-boyfriend, and she hit him with it. She began shouting at him, continuously mentioning that she wanted to fight him.
Why are you yelling?
This is why the cops are there. So apparently before the cops got there, the man says that she texted him that she was coming over, despite the fact that he wasn't there at the time. The doorbell camera caught her taking the spare key from under the doormat and entering the home. The woman then was clearly angry, threw and broke items around the home. The video was shown to the cops. It showed the guy arriving, her ex, at the residence to confront her. She began shouting at him, throwing pickled pork and juices of the pickled pork onto the sofa. A shattered glass item was also seen near the washing machine. It was a mess, Albert, I tell you.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
Arrested, she was, taken to the Lee County Jail. A man in Florida claiming an airport bomb threat was an attempt to flirt with a fellow traveler. Wow, it's a
wild idea, but it just might work.
Let's learn more. A Florida man saying that he was attempting to flirt with another traveler when he made a wisecrack about having a bomb in his bag at the airport. Baby, I got a bomb in my bag. It's just waiting to go off. Yeah. It's a romance
I'm sure she was
bomb.
thinking if it was a euphemism or not, but then I think he was trying to be serious.
There he is, Alan Berinsky, 70 years old, quote, trying to be funny, when he made the remark at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Berinsky was sitting at gate G11 in the terminal when two witnesses overheard him telling another passenger something like, quote, if the bomb in my bag goes off prematurely, I apologize to your family in advance. Well, the two witnesses became alarmed. They reported his comments to cops. That's when he was arrested and charged with making a false bomb report. That's a second-degree felony.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
He pleaded not guilty. He had to put up $7,500 bond, and sounds like the flirting didn't go anywhere. Thank you, Albert, for putting in an alligator story in Florida. Alligator mating season is set to kick off in Florida, everybody.
Right now, it's mating season, and they're hungry.
Well, the thing I have to tell you is that mating season in Florida, when the alligators come out, is not a good thing. It's kind of scary. And that's what officials are saying. Warnings are being posted on social media about this mating season. We've done all we can here on this channel. We tell you it's mating season and they're hungry. But now they're taking to social media and other places as well to tell Floridians, be careful. The courtship between alligators begins in early April. Mating happens in May or June. And isn't the best time to mate May or June, everybody? Damn straight. During that time, female alligators build nests and can lay dozens of eggs by late June or early July. Alligators will start being more aggressive, city officials wrote, as the mating season starts, so we urge our residents to be aware of the surroundings, especially by the water. Kids and pets should not play at the water's edge. Alligator attacks are not common. They're commonly reported here on this segment, but they are not common, apparently. But this is interesting. The Wildlife Conservation Commission has recorded alligator attacks in Florida, stemming back to 1948. How many alligator attacks in all that time, since 1948 to today, how many alligator attacks have there been in Florida? How many alligator attacks has the Wildlife Conservation Commission reported back to 1948?
Of course, Trevor's the first one.
Yeah, Trevor says 11,780.
He actually copied and pasted in his computer, I'm sure.
Yeah. 17 says ZKR. 200 says Chris. 1,500 says Kathleen Bryant. That's probably what I would guess, around 1,500. John Slade says 2,000. Nobody is close yet. Not nearly enough, says Brian. The answer is 450, everyone. 450.
Oh, it is a close answer right here.
Oh, 429. Viewfinder's president. Impressive. 429 is very close. You would be close enough to get points, so congratulations. Stemming back to 1948, 450 alligator attacks in Florida, which is fewer than I would have thought. 30 of those were fatal. Now, A Florida parent is arrested, egged on his kid to fight other students at a bus stop before she joined in. She threw a barrage of punches at a student during a fight at a bus stop minutes before she shouted for one of the girls to beat her ass. Tatiana D. Duffy, 28, a guardian of a student at the bus stop, was arrested. She's a guardian of a student. Arrested after she instigated, jeered, and intervened, according to the police report, in a fight between two students and then battered a juvenile during that incident. This happened near Haines City. The fight started out as a verbal confrontation between two juveniles waiting at a bus stop in Haines City. Shocking footage from the fight gave law enforcement all they needed, showing one juvenile shoving another as multiple people, including adults, are seen rushing toward the ensuing mayhem. Ensuing is a ding word. The two juveniles, one in a gray shirt and the other in a red hoodie, throw punches at each other, but are quickly separated by adults and other students. But the juvenile in the gray is then seen pouncing on top of another female student in a blue shirt and laying a series of vicious punches down on her head. This, as the girl in the blue shirt was covering her head in a defensive way on the ground. At this point, the video shows Duffy standing over them, holding out her phone to record the fight and screaming, "Beat her ass." Here it is. Albert is showing it to you now on YouTube. Nothing is pretty. The student in the red hoodie then jumps back in to pull the juvenile in the gray shirt off the other girl. That's when Duffy appears to be seen hitting the student in the red hoodie, shouting at him to get the F off of her as the students disperse and the video then ends. Wow. Pretty ugly. The Satanic Temple will be looking forward to participating if Florida school chaplain, it's a bill that, if the Florida school chaplain bill passes, the Satanic Temple, it says they want to vote. It's a bill that I think allows volunteer chaplains into the Florida public schools. And this legislation is close to passage there, and apparently the Satanic Temple is saying they're looking forward to sending their chaplains in to these schools. Any opportunity that exists for ministers, is the quote, or chaplains in the public sector must not discriminate based on religious affiliation. That's the Satanic Temple's official director of ministry weighing in. Our ministers look forward to participating in opportunities to do good in the community, including the opportunities created by this bill right alongside the clergy of other religions. Anyone who's followed this knows the Satanic Temple, when you see satanic there, it's usually a reference to atheism, or it's more of it's advocacy as opposed to religiosity. They want to push back on religion in all of these public forums. And so that's kind of what they do. But they play the satanic card hard. And that's what they're doing here. The IRS recognizes them as a tax-exempt church. They don't actually worship Satan, nor do they believe Satan exists. The Satanic Temple believes that religion can and should be divorced from superstition. They encourage effective and artful protest. And with a reference to Satanism and Satan, do I have one more to do here, Albert? The beer wrestling? You want the beer wrestling? Okay. Yeah. Here's our big finish. After we've been knocked off the air, we come back on the air. Here is this. At the Florida Man Games, big crowds cheer competitors evading cops and wrestling over beer. We told you about this story. It was kind of just emerging as a thing. But now, here you go. They rose up by the dozens across Florida. Competitors in tank tops and cut-off shorts. This is a kind of Olympics of typical Florida stuff. So evading cops and wrestling over beer, that's treated like an Olympic event. here they are, brawling, drinking, I presume fake gunfire, reptile wrangling. There's a lot of alcohol involved in this, for sure. One event has contenders dueling in muddy water in an inflatable pool, pummeling each other with weapons made from pool noodles and duct tape. The games kicked off last week with the Star-Spangled Banner. They played it on an electric guitar. Then they sipped cans of beer behind metal barricades, frequently shouting expletives at each other as a dozen teams battled in contests inspired by real events from America's most surreal state, Florida. By the way, James Gordon of DeLand, Florida, won the first event, wolfing down a plate loaded with barbecued pork and sausage. Did that in a fraction of a second before his nearest competitor did. Then he chugged a beer to celebrate. And that concludes our offerings, but we must choose a favorite. I'll just quickly review for you some that we've heard. We don't want to pick a favorite, but we have to. I thought it was sugar, a Florida woman said after she tried to poison her boyfriend with a bleach tablet. A Florida woman broke into the ex's home, threw Sprite and pickled pork juice at him and his soda after wrecking the place. A Florida man flirting with a fellow traveler claimed he had a bomb at the Florida airport. Alligator mating season is set to kick off, and the warnings are going up. The Florida parent arrested after egging on a kid to fight other students at a bus stop. The Satanic Temple looking forward to sending a chaplain into Florida schools if they okay this Florida chaplain legislation that would put a volunteer chaplain in many Floridian schools or Florida schools. And finally, the Florida Man Games underway. Big crowds, competitors evading cops and wrestling over beer after eating contests. We don't want to pick a favorite, but we must. I ask you, Albert, what is your favorite of those that you have curated, sir?
Albert, thank you.
I just love freedom of speech. So the Satanic Temple trying to join in on, if that Florida chaplain bill passes. I just love the story. I love the idea. And it's something new that we haven't seen in Florida, which is it's fun for me because I see the horrible stuff and I see the fun stuff. When I researched this, when I saw Satanic Temple, I was really excited.
Gator Warning says the Nikki Maduro show. Love having them on. Although it's probably Kim. Oh, it says it's Kim. Pickled pork, beer wrestling, and pork juice. It's a tough one. Florida Man Games, Florida Games. There's a lot of Florida games, Albert. Florida delivers every time. It does. I'll tell you, I'm going for the poisoning of the boyfriend. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just think when you're poisoning your live-in boyfriend with bleach, that's pretty brutal and pretty Florida.
And she was very adamant on not drinking it too, which is amateur, very amateur mistake. You can't do that. You got to put it to your mouth. You got to look like you're doing stuff. And
yes, exactly. Albert, thank you. Albert has it right. You've got to pretend you're drinking it. Mm-hmm. She really blew that part of it. Look, a lot of people who are trying to kill other people are really rookies at it, as we've come to learn. Oh, we did get Doug believes it, the bleach also. Yeah, that, my friends, is Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Poisoning is so old school, says Brian. It's true. I view it as classic, it really is classic. It's the way of Vladimir Putin, after all, at least one of the ways. I wanted to quickly mention that there's a full hour of this show still to go. We talked to Michael Shore. We discussed the State of the Union message, the GOP response. Also, Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, that still has to come as well. So this show will run a few minutes long largely because we were thrown off the air for a time, which sucks, but that's just the way it is. But before we get into the next hour, Albert, I wanted to quickly
The Mark Thompson Show.
mention again, if you want to join our meetup It's Thursday. It's between 6 p.m. and 6:30, and 8:30 on the West Coast. We have people joining from Florida. We have somebody joining from Taiwan who is not Albert. It's somebody different. Did I tell you that, Albert?
No.
There is somebody else from Taiwan who is joining us. So you're not the only person joining from Taiwan. From 6:30 to 8:30 Pacific time, Thursday, we do our meetup. 20-person limit. You can sign up at our PayPal. There's a PayPal link under this video and under the last video that got cut off. And under all the other videos, there will be a PayPal link. Go to that link, drop $50 donation in to lock up the spot. Again, it's limited to 20. And just put meet and greet or meet up or something with your donation so we know to hold you a seat. If you want to RSVP as well, it's mtsmeetup@gmail.com. mtsmeetup@gmail.com. Confirming, bunch of people. Courtney will be there. Josh Mankiewicz from Dateline NBC will be there. Jim Avila, Spencer Christian, Michael Schur, the Culture Blaster, Jefferson Graham. It's going to be quite the crowd. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I hope you will be among those there. Going to be great. Smash the like button like a boss. Thank you for rejoining. Those who have, we're back up with this stream. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Mm-hmm.
Smash it with your iron rod.
I come from regular stock.
There's a reason. Don't ever use that word.
What are the porn stars doing, Mark?
Hey, Mark. It's George Santos here. They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
What you say is the political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Straight up, right in, no problem.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Cuatro años más.
I don't wear a mask for the same reason I don't wear underwear. Things gotta breathe.
Say what?
Do you have a secret talent?
You get nothing.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
All the time. Bye-bye.
Did you really just do that?
The Mark Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for Crudite Day.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Use Mark Thompson. It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
There it is, our first virtual meetup. We're looking forward to it. It's actually next Thursday, the 14th, 6:30 to 8:30. I think maybe there's one or two spots. I'm hoping this guy joins because he's super smart, funny. I feel like his true funny doesn't get a chance to come out here enough. He's really like one of the funniest people I know, but he's forgotten more about politics than any of us will ever know, and he is so brilliant. Michael Schur, everybody.
My funeral has just happened, I think. So
yes, it's. I do seem to eulogize you from time to time, but I love that you spend a moment with us. And as we talk, the State of the Union message has just been completed. So we're actually recording this the night before in the interest of full disclosure, because we, for a lot of reasons, technical reasons, couldn't pull it together. on the on day of. So in any case, Joe Biden came out really throwing heat, I thought. Michael, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought so too. The only, you're going to hear all this breakdown of, was it good enough? Was it too strong? Did he mention Trump or imply Trump too many times? Was it too political? Was it too loud? Was it too long? Was it too late? All of that. Nobody's going to go into the booth in November and say, you know what? I remember that State of the Union address. Now I'm going to vote for Biden. I mean, so what Joe Biden's job is to not seem 81 or as 81 as he is purported to be. And to that end, I think that it was a good night for the president. I think that he came out, showed that he was fiery, showed that he was smart. He improvised a couple of jokes. He didn't seem lacking. And I think he certainly seemed forceful. Now, that's the only thing that he has to continue to do and maintain. This isn't about the content of the speech and or the response or who said what and sat next to what and screamed what and what names got wrong. I think we overblow what this is, but it certainly was not a report to the Congress about the State of the Union. This was as campaigny a speech as I'd heard, but I think he's somebody who, at 38% needs to do some campaigning too, and this is a good forum.
Aren't they generally campaigny?
They're political. They're not campaigny. I suspect I shouldn't say absolutely that they're not campaigny. You'd have to watch the ones that happen in an election year where a president's up for re-election. But I think I've never heard a direct sort of as many direct references to the opponent not being the Republicans in Congress that he has to work with and that his Democrats have to work with, but the opponent being the person he's going to face in the fall. So that was something that was unusual. It doesn't make it bad or untoward or anything. It just this is that's what this has become. We're watching television. They walk in, they walk the aisle. It's as much about, oh, look, did you see what he said to Mitt Romney, that he's got a lot of integrity, or did you see that he walked right by X, Y, or Z? None of that really, none of it matters.
Yeah. In the moment, I guess a big thing. But
what matters for President Biden is that he seems strong, and he seems strong tonight.
I want to ask you something that was we'll play a little bit of his speech, and we'll also play a little bit of the response, which was absolutely mind-bogglingly over the top, and it was like a bad drama class, the response. But anyway, I want to ask you something about just decorum. I understand we've lost all civility in Washington. The Washington that we grew up in is not the Washington that exists now. Right. The divisions are intense. And the premium on building your own personal brand as kind of a rebel, it would seem, is higher than ever. That said, is there no end? Is there no threshold for what's acceptable as the State of the Union speech is going on? It seems to me it passes heckling and takes it into like sort of other territory.
Yeah, I think that with Trump's departure, some of that will go away. Joe Wilson, you remember from South Carolina, when Barack Obama was there before, when Donald Trump was just a guy in New York and Barack Obama was giving the State of the Union, he screamed out, "You lie." And people were aghast at that. And people still talk about it. I remember that it was Joe Wilson that one time. But now it's a clown show. And now it's a little bit different. It's people wearing MAGA hats and T-shirts and trying to get in the president's face. And it's sort of ugly, but I think that's look, what Donald Trump has done, which is good for the people for whom he's done it, but bad, I think, for the civil discourse and the kind of what we knew, is that he has given a hall pass to people to do and say whatever they want, because that's what he does. And so I think you see it come out in Congress. You also look, I mean, when what you were talking about, Mark, is probably a way we never were either. I mean, there weren't cameras, there weren't tweets, there weren't those sorts of things. I'm sure it was just as ugly and divided, and I'm sure there was just as much snickering and whispering to the man or woman next to you about about what the president was saying during the State of the Union. So I don't know that it's a huge departure, but it's certainly a departure. And even if it's what we think was happening, it's different by great length to what we thought was happening. So I think it will go with Trump. You know, I've said it on this show before. I've said it to other people. I think that he's like Tiger Woods in a sense, which is that I think that a lot of people come to watch Donald Trump and what he brings. And when he's off the stage, those people will fade away, most of them, in the same way that if you don't like golf, you're going to watch even if you don't love it or know it or anything. If Tiger's golfing, a lot of people are watching golf. When he's not, a lot of people fall away. And I think
that there are some congressional rules actually against wearing signage and special stuff.
Yeah, there are, and I think we'll probably hear about that going forward. I mean, I don't know what those are for State of the Union. I know that you can't go into the Speaker's lobby, which is right behind the Speaker's podium there, which is where everybody congregates if you're not dressed properly, even if you're a member of Congress. So there's certainly some of that, but again, I think
at a comedy show, which to me is like sort of the low bar for decorum, they would possibly remove Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, with that kind of heckling. So anyway.
Well, I thought he played her really well. He came in, she had this shirt on and was saying, say her name, about a woman in Georgia who was killed by an illegal immigrant. And the president picked up the button in the middle of the speech. Like, he stopped and talked to her on the way in. The president engaged her, which I think shocked her. He picked up a button in the middle of the speech and said this woman's name. Said it wrong, but said the woman's name. He got the
It was close. I know that lots being made of him saying it wrong. Do you have it, Kim? We can play it. But then I do want to play some other parts of the speech. But I felt like they're dining out on that right now. Like, he didn't even know her name. But maybe, all right, it was, it's one of those things. If you don't have it, Kim, don't worry about it. But let's listen to a little bit of the speech. This is the beginning of Joe Biden's
former
speech.
Republican president tells Putin, quote, do whatever the hell you want. That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable. America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations, created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. Come here, stand up. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And they know how to fight. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world has ever seen. I say this to Congress, we have to stand up to Putin. Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away, it will put Ukraine at risk. Europe is at risk. The free world will be at risk, emboldening others to do what they wish to do us harm. My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away.
This was odd to me. You got a lot of applause in the room, even from some GOP members there. You can see Mike Johnson behind. But the reality is that they are walking away. The GOP is now pulling the plug on funding to Ukraine. So there's a certain dissonance, a cognitive dissonance there.
History is watching.
Thoughts on that chunk? That was really the chunk he led with.
Yeah, I mean, he also didn't let himself get introduced by Mike Johnson twice, which is the sort of tradition of, he just went right into his speech rather than, members of Congress. It's my high honor and privilege to introduce the President of the United States. And they applaud him. And then, he does it again. With some of the pomp and circumstance, it's great. But Biden just started and they were like, all right, let's just sit down. when they took the mic away, everything. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the big political issues that are happening right now. That's happening right now in Congress, and whether it's abandoned or not, it's not dead yet. But certainly, they're going to have to find a way to get Ukraine funding because the Senate and the majority in the Senate, both with many Republicans and the Democratic majority, wants a bill and wants a government spending bill that has Ukraine in it. So they're going to have to find a way to do that. Getting it separate from Israel is something that people in the House want because they don't want it just to be tied together to tie it together. And the Israel funding is of a different, Republicans want to fund Israel for different reasons. And so I think that was very State of the Union-y to me. That's where he comes in. He says what he wants. These are our priorities. We've got to get it done, and this is why. And he's telling the American people, but this isn't addressed to Congress really, why it's important. And that has political ramifications, but it also is basically a president saying, this is my agenda, which is usually what these speeches are, like them or not. And this one veered off into more political, like it or not, too.
He detailed a lot of the economic gains and kind of compared to before and after.
Right.
That seems, I always feel as though Biden can point to that. I mean, it's an extremely effective fact. Yeah.
He's going to have to start doing it. What's difficult for Biden and unfortunate for Biden is the cost of a loaf of bread, which is the cost that a voter feels immediately, is still not come down in the way it ought to. And that's what a lot of people are saying hasn't happened. Even as the economy improves, it still costs me more to buy bread than it did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, what have you. I think in time that message will get through. I mean, this is, again, we're thematic. Like we do this once a week and we talk about it, but some of these things haven't really changed. They have not begun to spend the money they have to message these things. And once that happens, certainly those numbers will change. Will they go all in favor of the president? Likely not. Those kind of numbers don't happen very often, but they'll certainly get better. And the overall number will get better too when they start spending money on the message.
Kim, we were just going to drop in one more if we can. Here's a little bit more from the State of the Union last night.
Checks, massive executive pay when it's only supposed to be $1 million that could be deducted. They can pay them $20 million if they want, but deduct $1 million. End it now. There are 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%. That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse.
This feels like a win for him, Michael. This.
Yeah, it does, definitely.
And a minimum tax for billionaires at 25%, just 25%. You know what that would raise? That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years. And imagine what that could do for America. Imagine a future with affordable child care. Millions of families can get they need to go to work to help grow the economy. Imagine a future with paid leave, because no one should have to choose between working and taking care of their sick family member. Imagine the future of home care and elder care, and people living with disabilities so they can stay in their homes and family caregivers can finally get the pay they deserve. Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you.
So that's his run on, and that's an effective pitch on something he wants, which is higher corporate taxes. And he reminds us of something that he talked about, I think, in his last State of the Union, which is, hey, this getting rid of Social Security or privatizing it or modifying it and all the ways to cut it back, that's what the GOP wants to do. We don't want to do that on the Democratic side.
Yeah, and the GOP says they don't want to do that, but still, what you say is true. And this is the blueprint for his campaign speeches. To me, though, again, the most important thing that you saw there was when, to me, about Joe Biden, what he needs to convince the American people is he's still this sharp man who can say, well, do you know what the average tax rate they pay is? A bunch of people are saying 0. And he says, no, they're making a big sacrifice. He's improvising that. It's not, uproariously funny, but it just shows that he is paying attention, and he is, which, you say this about an 81-year-old person, reacting perfectly to the moment and continuing his narrative by saying, no, they're making a big sacrifice, 8.2%. And then he goes right back into what he has to say. I think those are the things that I looked for here. People talk about, will he meet the moment? The moment for Joe Biden is being able to convince people that he's fine and that he can serve as president. And he's got to do that for the next, 9 months and 8 months, something like that. And if he can do that, then he can win re-election. If he can't do that, there's not a chance in hell. And I think this went a long way towards showing that, that he had a kind of sharpness that you would never have, that people have said that he doesn't have. And I think that was important.
Yeah, that's a really great point, that he showed a kind of nimble quality almost that
Correct.
is really something that is not part of the narrative about Joe Biden, even from his own party, which is the amazing thing to me. The momentum that this whole idea of pulling him out of the game has gotten from his own party is it's alarming. And it's kind of late in the game, Michael, just because I mentioned it, isn't it, to kind of pull out a quarterback who has won for you, even though he's way, if you wanted to extend the parallel, he's behind now?
It depends on what the score of the game is, right? I mean, if you're late in the game and you're not getting any offense and, you're not scoring points and you're down, what do you have to lose? Pull the quarterback and put someone else in. They're not.
In this case, it's kind of a tie game, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, I would say it's a tie game. They haven't really started yet, right? I mean, if you have what's on paper and then you have what's part of the game. And now Donald Trump is clearly going to be the nominee and Joe Biden's clearly going to be the nominee after Super Tuesday, after Nikki Haley, the former president's only, competition dropped out of the race. Joe Biden had nominal competition, and whether they're in it or out of it is of no moment to him. What's important is the game's about to start, and then you make those judgments. But judging from tonight, there's no need to, pull the QP.
I want to get back to Nikki Haley and some of the numbers that her entire run revealed. Soft spots for Donald Trump. We'll do it in a second. But I first want to touch on the fact that he did mention Israel and he did mention Gaza, and he mentioned it toward the latter part of the speech. Thoughts on that?
Well, look, it's a very difficult place for an American president, these issues. None of them are easy, right? I mean, you're going to have people that are up against you all the time. There are not a lot of easy jobs in politics. Mike Johnson, for example, the Speaker of the House, what he had to do tonight, not an easy job. Whether you love him or hate him or think he's the most backwards man in politics, sitting up there and just not being able to applaud, but, being the person who told his caucus to have decorum tonight, trying to bite his tongue and everything. It's sort of a no-win unless you just sit there stoically the whole night, I think. And so the president on Israel, it's a tough place, right? Because there is an Israel lobby that's very powerful, that has a lot of Democrats in it. But there's also this massacre that's been going on in Gaza, whether reasoned or not, it's still a massacre and people are dying. So what he did, I think he's taking the right steps right now. And I think a lot of people will say that he is. But he didn't say anything about ceasing the funding of Israel, which is what a lot of Democrats, a lot of people under his tent wanted to hear. A lot of voters in Michigan and Minnesota, a lot of members of Congress, and forget Michigan and Minnesota, all across the country, as we've seen in waves. And whether you agree with these people or not, he's playing a game of politics to win the presidency again. And he has to figure out, and his people have to help him figure out what goes into that calculus. I think that he played it pretty well. I think this humanitarian aid stuff is important, but I think he has to be, personally just doing the analysis, I think he has to be more vocal against Netanyahu and against what they are doing at this point to make political hay here. That's what I would be telling him if I were.
They're building a structure essentially offshore of Gaza to allow humanitarian relief. If you want to play a little bit of this, Kim, but then I want to get to the
No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day. And Israel must do its part. Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. And they're announcing they're going to have a crossing in northern Gaza. To the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time.
And then you could see the cutaway there of those who've been some of the most vocal critics of.
I think there are a lot of people that are looking for the president to admonish Netanyahu for this sustained, action in Gaza, and I think that he fell short of that. Doesn't mean, he was critical. He's talking about the positive things that can be done. He didn't say the word ceasefire, and people want him to say the word ceasefire. He doesn't have to say the word ceasefire. He just didn't say it. I think, though, that the people who in these pockets of Muslim voters and the people who are sympathetic to what's happening to the Gazans, who doesn't mean they don't care about what happened in Israel. But there has to be they want some sort of admonition to Israel, and they want to see a sustained ceasefire. The president says there's going to be a ceasefire, but, that remains to be seen still.
The GOP response was offered up from a kitchen, supposedly her own kitchen, and it was done by this junior senator from, is it Alabama?
Alabama. She's the woman. She was a member of Congress, and she ran and won the seat of the retiring Richard Shelby last time.
So she was this bizarre, and I say bizarre because I'm not even talking about the facts. I'm just talking about the performative aspects of it. She was super over the top. Kim, do you have any of that, or do we have any, or no, you do not? That's too bad. But it just did conclude. So to be fair, it may be maybe you can knock around. YouTube has a bunch of it. But the I guess what then I would just skip to is, to me it was just it was comical, and we'll have spoken of it a bit in the first hour. Sadly, you won't be able to weigh in on it. But I am going to ask you just in general about responses, Democratic or Republican responses. Do people hang out for those, or is really like the main show's over and now, after the headliners come off, nobody's hanging out for the next act? They
only matter when they're bad.
Okay.
Is really the answer to that question. And there have been some bad ones, but they don't, in the history of time, matter. They matter for a moment. We're talking about it. People will likely talk about this. I've gotten texts about, whoa, what the hell was that? And it matters to, let's say the president got bad reviews. Let's say people didn't like what he said. Well, if the response was spectacular in some ways, you can say, well, here's the balance, is the Republicans did a great job and the president was terrible. But if she did terribly and they wanted her to do really well, then, it matters for a moment there. I love politics and I love this stuff, and I watch it over and over, and I'll watch the arrival and the departure. I'm a geek about this stuff. That doesn't mean it matters. I'm also a curmudgeon about how important it is, because I don't think it's very important. It's the theater of politics, which I love. But so I don't think anybody's hanging on the words of Katie Britt tonight. But I think that if it becomes lampooned, then it's going to be a worse thing for the Republicans than they intended.
When you, there she is. We'll listen to a little bit of it now, but I want to move on quickly.
I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas. That's where I spoke to a woman who shared her story with me. She had been sex trafficked by the cartels starting at the age of 12. She told me not just that she was raped every day, but how many times a day she was raped.
I have to ask you to stop this now. It's going to be I'm demonetized already now because of this, and secondly, I don't know. I kind of think that her over-the-topness here actually is appropriate given the nature of a sex crime. So it's hard for me to be harsh with her here. But she had this level of outrage and faux emotion through the entire thing. It's as though she was talking about that for everything. Go ahead, Kim. Continue, please.
The result is tragic, but foreseeable. From our small towns to America's most iconic city streets, life is getting more and more dangerous. And unfortunately, President Biden's weakness isn't just hurting families here at home. He is making us a punchline on the world stage. Look, where I'm from, your word is your bond. But for 3 years, the president has demonstrated that America's word doesn't mean what it used to. From abandoning our allies in his disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan to desperately pushing another dangerous deal with Iran.
So there you go. You get a little bit of it. And it's also odd just from the standpoint of the substantive aspects of what she's saying. She talks about abandoning allies, and you've got Ukraine on the table, and that's already, the GOP is standing in the way of that. You have a border deal that she also references, and that's something that the GOP is also blocking. It was weird, and you can see from a performative standpoint, she has, the look away, it was like a bad TikTok after a first take. You do two more and get it right. But I don't know. I don't hear Michael. Oh, sorry. Is Michael muted?
Michael's
Go ahead.
Okay. There are theatrics to it that seem over the top to me. I didn't see it in its entirety. Also, if you're going to be in the kitchen, you talk about kitchen table issues, which she may have. But I mean,
she touched on them. Sure, she touched on them. To be fair.
Look, it was kind of weird, and I said this to you before we got on the air to you and Kim, that when I'm out in the field talking to voters, the amount of time that voters spend talking about sex trafficking, which not to minimize the issue, but how it's a Biden weakness for some reason. It goes back to a lot of these conspiracy theories about pedophiles and all of that, and Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. It just seems so out there that an Alabama Republican who is tied to the president, as most of them are, would be saying this stuff. It fits right into what they've been saying to me now for months and months and months and months.
Yeah, you're out there at all those rallies and talking to so many of these supporters of the former President Trump. Now I want to quickly, and then I'll let you go. You've been so great to weigh in on this. Talk about quickly the primaries, which it is suggested. There are two things I thought of you. I'll get to the suggestion of the soft spot. We talked about it a bit for Trump.
People say I was talking about you because they only talk about you when you're absolutely right or absolutely wrong.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right about polls. And here's how I thought of you. Because in Vermont, it was not forecast in the polling that I saw anyway, maybe you can correct me, that Trump would do anything but win in Vermont, And how did it work out?
It didn't work out. Haley will always have Vermont and D.C.
Yeah. So I thought of you. I thought, Michael Schur always talks about the fact that, the methods of polling, flawed. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're not. And here they're not. So
but to be fair, they work very hard. And it's been pollsters have had a monumental adjustment with the advent of the cell phone. I mean, it has been destroying. It has destroyed polling for a while. And they're still climbing out of the rubble, trying to figure out how to do that, but with texting and cell phones and robocalls not really working anymore. There's this whole, so they have a huge challenge, but they're not there yet.
So that was one thing. That was when I thought of you. But now in exit polling, the Nikki Haley crowd, those who were exit polled, many of them were saying, and I think the percentages are fairly significant, north of 25%, that they would not vote for Donald Trump. They were never Trumpers.
Yeah, I'm seeing you're seeing that with every chunk she gets. Yeah, did she lose 58-40 in New Hampshire by a walloping? I mean, don't quote me on those numbers, but about that, she got walloped in New Hampshire. She got walloped in South Carolina. But when you're pulling 40% and a good percentage of those people are not going to vote for Donald Trump in the fall, that does signify that there's a problem that the Republicans have on their hands. And there's some acreage there for the Biden people as you go forward. And the other thing is that it's up to the Democrats to bring the people out who they need to bring out to win anyway. So you got to start with those. Let the Republicans fall into place.
And I also saw, and we put up these stats earlier in the week if people want to go back and look, but 66%, I think it was, or somewhere around 65 or 66% of, again, those who voted for Nikki Haley generally approve of the job that Joe Biden is doing as president. I mean, that's astounding as well. From that crew, it seems like some may come over for the Democrats.
Well, the Democrats need to see that happen in a place with a greater population.
That's true. Yeah, I mean,
they need to see that in states like Wisconsin and states like Michigan and states like Pennsylvania and Arizona. If that starts to become a trend, then that's bad news for Trump and his campaign.
Michael, you've been great to spend time with us, and thank you. I will ask you, I think you indicated, but I'm not really sure whether you have indicated you'll be with us for a couple of minutes, stop in for 15 minutes or so for our meetup next Thursday.
I'm almost certain to be able to do that. So
all right, that's very good news.
We'll talk about it a little later, Mark, but I expect to be there.
All right. You're just the coolest to be with us. Thank you so much. Yeah, and Michael Shore, everybody. Thanks, Michael. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How great is he? Coming in. Kim is speaking, but can't hear her.
I couldn't love him anymore, I say.
Yeah. She's got a little bit of a man crush on
it's true.
On that Michael.
Yeah.
But there's another Michael in our midst.
What?
That's right. This is a guy who knows music. He knows movies, streaming, television, the series, the indie films, the ones with subtitles. It's a Japanese movie, but you got to see it. Don't worry. Don't be put up by the subtitles. It's a Latino movie, but there's subtitles, and you'll love it. He comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it? For the great Michael Snyder, Culture Blaster.
Hey, good day to you. Good morning.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for keeping the illusion going. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, I don't know where we are in the world right now because people watch this thing on delay.
Oh, that's right.
Consequently, it's a crapshoot. We just don't know. But I will.
Can you hear yourself okay with your headphones?
I'm perfectly fine.
All right, sir.
I just want you to know how proud I am that my drop made it into Mark's Madness.
Your drop did. Not only made it, had to fend off, in the play-in. If you missed it, Michael Snyder's drop.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
The time waster drop made it in.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
It beat out something that I thought was going to just destroy it.
You can buy a Movado watch in Sam.
And tell me how that Movado watch didn't just destroy you.
It was gibberish, complete and utter gibberish, whereas I was attacking the host, number one, doing a crappy
impression. That's true, you were attacking the host.
A crappy impression of Liam Neeson, number two.
That's true,
And then we had that, under the musical bed, we had the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Oh, that's right.
Theme.
The music. You had a lot of work.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time
The last thing I will tell you is you should go on, get a bracket done, fill out a bracket like you did last year. You've got many days to do it. It doesn't start until Wednesday. But when you fill out a bracket, you'll see why I'm halting in my manner. Your drop goes up against a top seed.
I am quite aware of the way this thing is fixed, Mark.
Because the play-ins going up against the top seed. We work it like the NCAA. Albert does that. All right.
Okay, the fix is in.
Albert,
Let's
thank you. Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Michael Snyder. What do you have for us?
Let's
Go, great
talk
Culture
movies,
Blaster. Yes,
the
please.
new movies that are opening this weekend. And actually, if we have time at the end, we'll talk a little bit about Sunday's Oscar ceremony, which is happening.
Oh, that'd be great.
It's a big deal.
Let me just alert Kim, who is helping us right now. Kim, do you have the assets that Michael Snyder passed on to us? Yes, great, we do. Thank you so much, Kim. And
Kim, how are you?
Then let's do the do.
Let's commence.
Okay.
Kung Fu Panda 4 is the new animated feature film continuing the adventures of Po.
That just sounded funny.
Po is the pudgy, noodle, and bun-loving panda who has somehow become a master of kung fu and protector of the happy valley where he, his family, his friends, and his allies live. And I'll give this kung fu panda installment a hearty meh. Maybe no, Mark. It could be franchise fatigue. I think that could be what's going on here.
Oh, I see.
Whatever it is, Kung Fu Panda 4 is more of the same, for better or worse. By the way, the first movie in the series, 2008's Kung Fu Panda, remains the best of this quartet and is one of the high watermarks in non-Pixar computer animated movies.
Oh, so you really did love the...
When it comes to design and kinetics, I mean, even on the fourth go-round, this new movie, the mystical Asian setting continues to dazzle, and the character designs remain charming, although the action now feels more frenetic than kinetic. Anyway, let's be frank. This is an attempt to reinforce a franchise and brand that has been to the big screen well 3 times before and has spun off, get ready, 3 TV series: Kung Fu Panda, Legends of Awesomeness, The Paws of Destiny, and The Dragon Knight. They did, to their credit, bring back significant actors who originated crucial characters in the franchise, led by Jack Black as Po, the Kung Fu Panda himself, complete with his signature skadoosh, as well as the veterans who portrayed the mentors of this jovial, portly, but nimble fellow. Dustin Hoffman as Shifu, the wise teacher. James Hong, one of my favorites, and it was an honor to meet the man at a Tom Kenny show, I'll tell you that. James Hong is Mr. Ping the Goose, who adopted Po, and Bryan Cranston plays Lee, Poe's biological father.
You've got real stars.
Right, and they have added the seemingly everywhere Aquafina as a kind of frenemy fox, and Viola Davis, Oscar bait herself.
I mean, this is crazy.
She's the chameleon, a shape-shifting big bad who wants to control more than the one town that she has under her heel.
How can this not be a great movie?
The chameleon has Poe's Happy Valley in her sights, and a face-off with the big galoot and his pals is inevitable. Of course.
Are his pals as good at the kung fu as the big galoot?
No, not really. They have other skills. And actually, there's a group of fighters of various animal types, voiced by the likes of Angelina Jolie, among others. They are not in this movie.
I see.
It gets a little pricey there to bring in the big names.
Well, at some point, you run out of, there's a roster cap.
Dude, it's not fun.
Okay.
No, I'm lying. It is fun. You know what? It's not bad, but Kung Fu Panda 4 felt an awful like Kung Fu pandering, if you know what I mean.
Oh, my God, everybody. Okay. Don't applaud at that.
It's in theaters. Anyway, let's move on.
All right.
The next movie I have for your delectation,
yes, sir,
is actually quite good.
Delectation.
Loving film noir and crime dramas in general, I was very taken with Love Lies Bleeding, a gritty, admittedly violent, sometimes darkly funny thriller set in 1989 with all that entails. And it stars Kristen Stewart as Lou, a brooding young woman working as the manager of a grimy gymnasium in a bleak New Mexico town.
Her father was the stage manager on my show, Guinness.
I know that you hang with the big boys.
John
and girls.
Stewart, Kristen Stewart. Okay,
she's a wonderful actor.
She's a terrific actor. Yeah.
Okay, so
Love Lies Bleeding. Got it.
Yeah, Lou's life is already screwed up by the actions of her criminal father, Lou Sr., who is a local kingpin played by, get ready, Ed Harris. So again, we're talking quality cast.
Whose father was the stage manager on one of my other shows. Thank you, everybody.
Get serious. Anyway, her life becomes even more complicated when she falls for Jackie, a sketchy but hot female bodybuilder. So Jackie, played by Katie M. O'Brien, who you may know from The Mandalorian if you watched it, she's just passing through this New Mexico town on her way to Vegas to compete in one of those steroid-infused competitions to choose the most buff bodies on the planet.
Wow. But I like it already.
Her plans are upended by her attraction to Lou.
Oh.
Complicating matters, as often happens in this sort of movie. Lou's brother-in-law, JJ, played by Dave Franco, works for Lou Sr. and regularly and viciously abuses Lou's sister, Beth, played by Jenna Malone. So something's got to give, and something does in raging, effective, and occasionally surreal fashion.
Wow.
Stewart and the rest of the cast are all terrific. And O'Brien,
Surreal fashion? What do you mean by that?
there are moments that made me think of magical realism.
All right.
You know, where suddenly things would go cock-a-hoop, as people say in Scotland. And then back to reality.
All right, I'll ding cock-a-hoop. Yeah, I don't know. Never.
Okay.
Go ahead, yes.
So O'Brien seriously bulked up for the role. I mean, I saw her. She's obviously, cut. But to see her as a full-on bodybuilder, that we've seen the photos, and they're borderline grotesque, but she is terrific in this thing. Love Lies Bleeding, which is also the title of a fantastic Elton John song, as you may or may not know, is the work of English director and co-screenwriter Rose Glass, who made the powerful psychological drama Saint Maud, which is an excellent film that deserves to be seen. With Love Lies Bleeding, Glass has delivered something bold and fresh in the crime genre, resulting in a movie that I consider one of the year's best so far. So,
wow.
Love Lies Bleeding, like Kung Fu Panda 4, is in theaters.
Really liked Love Lies Bleeding
They
in
both
theaters.
coexist in the multiplex for some reason.
Yeah, one not so much, and the other you're really crazy for. All right, go with the third you have for us.
Here we go. As much as I am a fan of Millie Bobby Brown and have been impressed by her work in the hit Netflix fantasy series Stranger Things, and especially in her two exuberant feature-length starring vehicles as Enola Holmes, Sherlock's smart and plucky little sister, I was excited to see her latest movie for Netflix. She obviously has a development deal, and
I see. Sure, of course.
This is her third major thing.
She of Stranger Things,
yes,
right?
she plays 11 on Stranger Things. That was what introduced her to audiences worldwide.
That's how she got the Netflix deal.
I think so.
She was such a big hit with that, huh?
Yeah, and Enola Holmes and the sequel were both really, really good. And she's delightful in both movies.
Yeah, Enola Holmes is really terrific. I remember you recommending that before. Go ahead.
So her latest movie for Netflix is Damsel. And disappointed by what I saw, I must continue to review it nonetheless. Despite the usual game performance by Brown, who illuminates everything she does, I just was left a little cold. Too bad she chose to shine on something that, despite a quest narrative, sword play, a devious royal plot in a fairy tale kingdom, lots of action, and spoiler alert, an angry dragon. This somehow comes off as overly familiar and played out. And I guess it makes sense after so many Lord of the Rings films and TV projects, the recent witty and exciting Dungeons and Dragons movie, and so on. So I'm not saying Damsel is Dumsel. Obviously, these people, had a plan in mind. It's just one of those now typical attempts to ape the success of a certain type of movie, and it falls short of its predecessors.
I see.
So Brown is Elodie, whose aristocratic family has fallen on hard times. So her father, played by Ray Winstone, agrees to allow an arranged marriage between Elodie and this feckless prince of a wealthy kingdom overseen by a conniving queen played by Robin Wright.
Oh, wow. Feckless is it?
Yeah, well, Elodie's stepmother, played by Angela Bassett. I mean, these people have got to eat,
great.
Right? So Elodie's stepmother is suspicious, while Elodie's little sister is kind of thrilled at the promise of the two families joining in the prospect of living the good life, right? So, of course, there's a hitch that involves a curse and the aforementioned dragon. And in short order, Elodie must find her inner action hero and save the day. So despite decent effects, name actors Winstone, Wright, and Bassett, and Brown's immense verve, Damsel needed saving, mostly from its trite script. Damsel is available on Netflix if you want to give it a shot, because, I love Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, well, there you go. What else do you have for us, Great Culture Blaster?
I got a quickie, my friend, a quickie that we can dismiss fairly swiftly. Imaginary answers the question, what if the demonically possessed doll Chucky of the popular horror movies and TV shows was a stuffed teddy bear? That's the question. No, there's another question. What if Ted, the lovable but foul-mouthed teddy bear that magically came alive and has cavorted through 2 Seth MacFarlane comedies and a TV show, was evil? That's a little closer approximation, okay? So in Imaginary, a family moves back to the mother's childhood home where the cute little stepdaughter discovers a stuffed teddy bear named Chauncey. Boy, the red flags are already flying with that name, Chauncey. Anyway, Chauncey is, alas, possessed by something malignant.
When you see Chauncey, you know, when you hear the name, when you see it, you know that there is a...
Trouble is afoot.
Okay, all right.
So, this thing is possessed, as I said, by something malignant.
Yeah,
it's lame horror by numbers stuff and not funny. I mean, Ted is funny, and it's not a horror movie, and Chucky is funny and is a horror property, right?
That's right.
And this is not particularly scary. There is no need for me to say any more. All I'm going to add is that when Imaginary was over, I had wished I wasted my time in something that was better. I kind of hoped that the movie had actually been Imaginary. Like I didn't really experience it.
Please tell me I didn't.
No.
Oh, yeah. Apparently,
anyway,
3 no's from Michael.
Imaginary's in theaters. Caveat emptor.
How about TV shows? Anything for that great culture blaster?
Okay, I do have a few that I'll recommend quickly. The Regime on HBO Max just started. I've only seen episode 1 of 6, and it's a political satire from one of the creatives behind Succession. So there's intellect behind this. Plus, Kate Winslet, the magnificent Kate Winslet, plays a female Putin type, or a wannabe Putin, paranoid and germophobic, the chancellor of a middle European aristocracy, and she's dedicated to retaining power and making her cobalt-rich country a serious player on the world stage. And it's kind of bizarre, and it's kind of strange, and it has a very odd rhythm, and I'm going to watch more of it. Matthias Schoenaerts plays a soldier who's brought in to make sure the air in every room she goes into is, the proper amount of humidity. It's crazy. And Andrea Riseborough, who looks plain and dowdy and can look gorgeous at times, plays like the aide to our chancellor. I am intrigued. I didn't laugh a lot. I know it's a satire. I didn't laugh a lot, but I was intrigued.
And I'm sorry, who's the lead?
A woman named Kate Winslet. Have you heard of her at all?
No, because I yes. In fact, how dare you mock me, first of all. And secondly, I saw the trailer, and it looks really good. She's brilliant, I think. I mean, what she did she did Mayor
of Easttown.
Mayor of Easttown was absolutely brilliant.
She had the Philly accent down. She had everything down.
She's amazing.
And she's every time she's on the screen, you're invested in it. But it's a strange thing so far. And again, only 1 episode has dropped, but I still am intrigued.
Okay.
All right. This is a franchise that's been around for a very long time, but they keep putting out these sequel miniseries, and this is a good one, The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, on AMC and AMC Plus. It's about a world overrun by zombies. We know what The Walking Dead is. Sure. 2 of the leads were separated, I guess, a season or 2 before the show reached its conclusion. Andrew Lincoln as Rick, and Danae Guerra as Michonne, star-crossed lovers, and this is about their quest to be reunited somehow across this zombie overrun America of the near future. And so far, it's been pretty damn good. And I do love Andrew Lincoln and Danae Guerra. So maybe it gives it a jump on things.
So, and just the way that you kill a zombie, because you got to kill them, right? Otherwise, they kill you.
Destroy the brain.
You got to hit them at the brain.
Yeah, hit them in the brain, slice half their head off so you get the brain severed. Yeah, that's basically that's the only thing you need to know in Walking Dead Zombieland.
Right, okay.
Speaking of couples,
yes, sir.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, our friend.
You mentioned this. You said it's good.
Remember, Phineas is watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Watch. I started watching it.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon.
It was Phineas in our chat who said you got to watch it. Right.
Been compelling me to do it, and finally, yes, Phineas. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith is on Amazon, and it's inspired by the Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie rom-com thriller. Only this time, the title characters are not a married couple wherein neither knows the other is a spy, and as they learn, things go crazy. Instead, Donald Glover of Atlanta fame and Maya Erskine, who was so good in Plus One, are tasked by a secret espionage organization to portray a husband and wife while they go on various risky missions. Will danger and romance and sly wit ensue? Certainly.
Oh.
That's it. I've enjoyed it a lot.
It was a cover, but then it turns into real romance, maybe.
I think they may be rolling in that direction.
All right.
Finally, I've been sitting on this for a couple weeks, and I know some people love World War II drama, people love history, docudrama, and such. Masters of the Air on Apple TV. Stars Austin Butler, a.k.a. Elvis, and also a.k.a. one of the stars of Dune 2. And he is in this Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks production about the greatest generation. World War II is at its height. And this is a tribute to the people that did the fighting. And it dramatizes the lives of the enlisted men of the 8th Air Force Division of the U.S. Army Air Forces based in England and flying perilous missions over Europe and Scandinavia.
It's called Masters of the Air?
Yeah, it's missions that through advances in CGI tech appear more realistic and are more vivid than ever. It might be a little old hat on the dramatic side, but this is still a good watch for those interested in the history and the milieu. And in addition to Austin Butler, Barry Keoghan of Saltburn and other remarkable movies like The Banshees of Inisherin is also here playing an American, not playing a Brit. Mm-hmm. And I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, I've only seen the trailers. It looks great, and I've heard great things about it. Wow, look at you. A lot of coverage today, and we haven't even gotten to the Oscar picks and predictions. Do you have any of those before I review your films and television offerings?
I will say quickly, as you and I have discussed innumerable times, it's apples and oranges. It's hard to pick a comedy star.
You cannot pick and compare movies or pieces of art or performance. It's just not fair.
It's just not fair. I will just say, in terms of Best International Feature, I have a feeling that The Zone of Interest is going to win, although Io Capitano and Perfect Days and Society of the Snow and The Teacher's Lounge are all exceptional. And the crazy thing about the international features, Io Capitano is about a couple Sudanese teenagers directed by an Italian. And it's an Italian submission. It gets crazier. Perfect Days, set in Tokyo, about a Tokyo toilet cleaner directed by Wim Wenders of Germany. And it is, in fact, a Japanese submission. The Teacher's Lounge, yeah. And The Zone of Interest, by the way, a UK submission of all things. It is in a foreign language, directed by a British director, but featuring an entirely German or Austrian cast.
All those films you gave massively positive reviews to.
Absolutely great movies, and I do believe that Zone of Interest will win. Best Animated Film, let's just say The Boy and the Heron, the great Hayao Miyazaki, one of his final films from what I've heard. And I liked it better than most of the rest of these, although Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the sequel to an Oscar winner. You never know. In terms of actresses and actors, I got a feeling that Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers is going to be the best supporting actress. I said so when we reviewed the movie in December.
You did, even though she's not on screen for a long time in that movie. But she is brilliant.
But, Emily Blunt, she's there from Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer is going to win some gold, baby. So, yeah. Going to win some gold. Best Supporting Actor, I have a feeling that it's going to be Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, although, he's got quite the competition from the likes of Robert De Niro from Killers of the Flower Moon and Sterling Brown in American Fiction. If there's any justice, we would give everybody an award. Best Director, I think it's going to be Christopher Nolan, but that doesn't change the fact that Glazer for Zone of Interest, Yorgos Lanthimos of Poor Things, and Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon. All great.
Go back to Poor Things. Who is it? Who is it nominated for?
Yorgos Lanthimos, the guy who did The Killing of a Sacred Deer with Barry Keoghan and Colin Farrell, and that's an amazing film. And he's also the guy that did The Favorite with Olivia Colman.
Of course,
and Emma Stone.
Yeah.
He's a great director.
Yeah, maybe that movie I did not land for me.
Yeah, you're not alone. Some people blanch at it, and I myself,
I was blanching for a long time.
I loved it. Anyway, Best Actress. I feel it's going to go to Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon because, Oscars hashtag still so white. So they're going to do something to redress the balance.
They've got to check that box.
But Emma Stone and Annette Bening in Nyad was superb. Emma Stone in Poor Things, she's also a contender. And maybe the best performance of all was Sandra Hüller from Anatomy of a Fall.
Absolutely brilliant. Must see that movie. I recommend it, particularly to my community of people who comes here to this show. You are all smart, and you will like that Anatomy of a Fall. I think. I mean, even if you don't like it, it's provocative and interesting. It's a lot of good things. I really think you'll like it.
I was blown away by it. And Sandra Hüller, just to make an interesting note, is the wife in Zone of Interest. She plays the wife of the Nazi commandant. Wow. So she was on fire this past year. Wow. Best actor, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, but I would love to see it go to Jeffrey Wright from American Fiction, which I thought was just fantastic.
It was terrific. That was a terrific movie.
And Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, playing Paul Giamatti, of course. But it was wonderful.
Very, very good.
And now the Best Picture. If there was any justice, every movie would get the award. But I do believe Oppenheimer is going to win this one. And I just think it's big. It's powerful. It's still relevant. It's done in an expert fashion, and technically speaking, it's superb. So
movies that won't see Oscar daylight, Maestro, you don't think is going to see Oscar?
I don't think so. And yet, Carey Mulligan for Best Actress, she's the best thing about the movie. I thought.
And you had Spielberg involved with it.
I don't think Barbie's going to win any. Maybe Best Song. Barbie might win one of the songs.
Wow. I hope American Fiction gets some love, but it would be great. Well, let me just quickly review with you some of the picks for the viewing that you might do streaming. Austin Butler and Crowd and Masters of the Air, that's on Apple TV, and Michael really likes it. Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon, originally recommended by Phineas in our chat. Michael's now on it and really likes that.
Yep.
Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, star-crossed lovers, their quest to be reunited. Michael liked that?
Well, I'm a longtime fan. I'm not going to call The Walking Dead a guilty pleasure, but hey, guilty.
The Regime, which is a political satire offering from one of the creative minds behind Succession. Kate Winslet is in it. And Michael has just begun it. That is to say, it's only, I think, one episode in. Is that what you said?
One episode in.
But you really like that, too. So that's on television. That's all streamable. Now to the features. Imaginary, the stuffed teddy bear that's, one part Chucky and one part Ted.
It is Chucky meets Ted.
It's a stuffed animal that's got really, really bad intentions. Michael says it's missable.
When it was over, I went, get stuffed.
Damsel.
Chauncey?
Damsel is the Millie Bobby Brown project. Quest narrative, sword play, but you can't blame her for taking it, is kind of what I got from you.
Hey, business is business.
Yeah, but it's played out, and it just didn't land for you, even though there are other great performances in that film.
Hey, Robin Wright, what are you doing in this movie?
Exactly.
I'm cashing a paycheck, darling.
Love Lies Bleeding. Wow. Kristen Stewart, who I adore. Ed Harris, who I adore. Dave Franco, who I'll probably adore. And Jenna Malone, who I'll adore. He really likes it.
And Katie O'Brien, doing on De Niro, fully buffed as a female bodybuilder.
That is not easy. Love Lies Bleeding in theaters. And he started with Kung Fu Panda 4. That has an insane cast, but it also just doesn't quite make it.
More of the same, buddy.
More of the same. It's a meh. Wow. Culture Blaster. Woo. You really hit the ball. You'll be with us on Thursday for our meetup.
I am planning to come, and it is, of course, St. Patrick's Day, so...
Oh, you'll be a little inebriated, do you think?
No, I'll be wearing a Jameson's whiskey shirt.
Will you appear on camera as opposed to, like, now when you have to? Okay, you will. All right.
Yeah,
he comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Culture Blaster.
Go Dubs!
The Mark Thompson Show.
I don't know, Kim. We got a lot in. We did. We got a lot in. Got to get you to unmute your mic, probably. I'm guessing. I'm not looking right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It automatically mutes when I take myself out.
Oh,
we did cover a lot. I'm super proud.
Yeah. I think you're one of the reasons. Kim helped make it happen. we have to wrap up. Thanks to everybody who helped us today. The After Party Live is going down on the After Party Live channel.
We'll do it live.
Yeah.
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah. Mark's Madness next week. It starts on Wednesday. The virtual meetup is Thursday. There's still a couple of seats left. You know how to do it. We reviewed it in the first hour. And that should be great. That's just among the things that we're doing next week. I also thank you for indulging us in the second hour being recorded because we, as I've said,
fault.
It's crazy.
I have an internet issue today, so.
Yeah, Kim's got an internet issue and just a little bit but it was cool. We made the adjustment. All right, everybody. Great weekend. Thank you again, Snyder. And until...
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show.
I love my shadow. Until Monday.
All the time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.